hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started. And
Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
It is my honor to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
In America, the impossible is what we do best. There is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. We will restore America's promise and we will rebuild the nation that we love. We will stand bravely, dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours. The golden age of America begins right now. America's decline is over. We will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth. I am with you. I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. The golden age of America begins right now.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 85 of Just Our Take. I'm your host, John. This is my co-host, David. How you doing, David?
Good evening, everybody. I'm doing great, thank you. How are you,
Marie,
John?
thank you. Thank you for noticing, Marie. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a work of love, and it's a work of and it's a lot of work, John, but it's good. I love it. I love the new imagery.
Thanks.
Well,
Still a message
welcome. What's that?
Still a message hidden in there, of course.
Of course. There's a few Easter eggs, I imagine.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say welcome, everybody. This is just our take. That's our disclaimer, too, by the way. This is just our opinion. If you agree, awesome. If you disagree, that's awesome, too. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If we're wrong, educate us. If you disagree with our opinions and you have a different one you want to sell us on, we're interested. We'd love to hear it. But welcome.
Hey, I'm going to open up with some breaking news, David. Unfortunately, there has been a plane crash. American Airlines Flight 5342 from Wichita, Kansas, inbound to DCA, has reportedly collided with a DC police helicopter on approach and crashed in the Potomac. The number of on board currently unknown, and they are searching actively for that. There's the crash right there. Literally, it was on the very last second of approach there. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then you have to ask the question: how on earth did a DC police helicopter, get in the glide path of a runway like? I mean, it's not like DC. What is it? DCA? Which one is that? Andrews?
Well, it's DC Airport, actually. It's
DC Airport.
Does it say there's a, well,
it just says DCA. Anyway, it's hard to believe that an airport, at any airport, that a police helicopter could interrupt the glide path. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more there. We'll have to see what.
Ronald Reagan Airport. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's horrific.
Yeah,
exactly. The last thing you're thinking, you're like, we're gonna land. How many times have you've flown across the country and you're ready to land and you're excited and just getting your things together, and oh my God, can't even.
It's horrible. So definitely our prayers go out to those folks involved as well as their families, and just praying that they find some survivors. Again, that's everyone ended up in the Potomac, and temperatures are quite cold there, so. I actually brought up the ADSB exchange, which is a place where you can go through and you can find aircraft that are currently flying, and I don't see any civilian and or regular military over the area, so it's hard to tell what's going on for search, but I'm sure there is a search going on. Anyway, that said. You're right. Will says there's a lot going on. There sure is. David, is that a new hat? No, that's actually the hat that David had at the Trump rally in Bozeman.
This was my first Trump hat, and I bought it in Bozeman, and I wore it proudly there. And then I was asked later by Mrs. John, hey, if Trump doesn't win, will you burn that hat? And I was like, what are you talking about? I wouldn't have bought this hat if I didn't think he was going to win. Of course, I'm not going to have to burn it.
Well, there you have it. So listen, if you haven't done so already, please hit that thumbs up. We actually, when you do that and you hit the thumbs up, it actually triggers the algorithm at Rumble, helps other people find the channel. And there are a lot of people out there trying to help us grow this base. And we really appreciate all the folks that are out there doing that and those folks that contribute. So thank you guys very much. But if you'd hit that thumbs up, and if you're not a follower already, we would be honored if you would do so. Follow us, hit that follow button. And we are live every Wednesday night and Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. Okay, David, jumping right into it. Did you happen to catch any of the hearings today? RFK, all I'm going to say is the Democrats outdid themselves.
I only got to watch a couple quick ones. Okay, here's how it works for me during the day. Meeting, quick, run to the restroom on the way there, on the way back, and then to grab a refill for my coffee. That's about the time I get. And so what I did catch was a couple of moments during the day. I watched, I don't know if it was Warren, who was just losing her mind and arms flying everywhere and voice. Then another senator, they were yelling and screaming so loud that it was affecting the audio. And all I could think of is this person's losing their mind. That's it. And I'll say one or two other things. I watched a couple of clips where Warren asks, will you agree that you will not accept a job with any drug company for at least 4 years? And he's like, I'm paraphrasing, repeat the question. She asked it again, and he's like, oh, you're talking to me? Like, are you asking if I'm going to be the one to be corrupt and take do a bunch of favors and then go get paid? No,
Yeah.
that's not why I'm here.
All right. Well, the first one we have up is another one of those senators absolutely losing their mind. I'll keep it clean.
All of these things cannot be true. So, are you lying to Congress today when you say you are pro-vaccine? Or did you lie on all those podcasts? We have all of this on tape, by the way.
Yeah, Senator, as you know, because it's been repeatedly debunked, that statement that I made on the Lex Friedman podcast was a fragment of the statement. He asked me, and anybody who actually goes and looks at that podcast and will see this. He asked me, are there vaccines that are safe and effective? And I said to him, some of the live virus vaccines are. And I said, there are no vaccines that are safe and effective. And I was going to continue for every person. Every medicine has people who are sensitive to them, including vaccines.
Right. So
he interrupted me at that point. I've corrected it many times, including on national TV. You know about this, Senator Wyden. So bringing this up right now is dishonest.
Ooh, calling him out. Calling him out.
It is dishonest.
I
love that he fights back.
He does, and it's not like he's new to the game. You know, he's seen the game. He knows how it's played. He completely understands it, and he's not going to be bullied. So I have a couple others to show you here. This is a video, same column.
conspiracy theories, quacks, charlatans, especially when it comes to the safety and efficacy of vaccines. He has made it his life's work to sow doubt and discourage parents from getting their kids life-saving vaccines. It has been lucrative for him and put him on the verge of immense power. This is the profile of someone who chases money and influence wherever they lead, even if that may mean the tragic deaths of children and other vulnerable people. So
What was he saying? However, let's hang on. Let's just pull up the numbers.
Okay, let's look at the numbers.
This is the money that Senator Wyden has pulled in over the years. Agribusiness, quite a bit of money. Communications and electronics, construction. Wait, let's go all the way down to the bottom. Healthcare, $1.5 million.
What? Get out of here.
Wyden has received $1.5 million from the healthcare industry. Notable donors, Molina Healthcare, Quest Diagnostics, and Nova Nordisk.
Wow. I did see a couple of others of these, like who's contributing to some of the senators are the most outspoken. Pfizer comes up a lot, by the way. Pfizer came up for at least 4 of the senators. And I'm just saying, you want to say that he is doing this for a payday. Meanwhile, people have been getting rich off this as a payday now for decades.
Why don't you bring Marie's comment up? Carolyn Kennedy came out today and just ripped into her, was it cousin? It's her cousin, right? Or is it brother?
I thought it was her brother, but
her brother ripped into him.
Follow the royalty, the Kennedy's royalty, but go on.
Yeah, so she just comes out and totally rips into him. And imagine that. There's some kind of a financial gain for her to rip into him.
Huh. So weird. So she gets paid by Bristol Myers Squibb and Eli Lilly. That's so strange that another high profile person is paid by the drug companies. These drug companies, they spend more money in advertising, like by 5x than they ever do in research and development. If it was that good, you wouldn't need to do that, right? Just saying.
Yeah. Let's see. Then we have, this is all stuff around the hearings today. So as they're getting ready for the hearing, before, this is like I don't know, maybe 40 minutes before the hearing, somebody just happened to glance over at somebody's computer as she was typing.
Yeah.
And she happened to read the headline that was already queued up on her computer there. See, no one in the audience, that it hasn't started yet. They're still looking at their phones and all that. Huh. RFK faces grilling on anti-vaccine comments and animal mutilation at the confirmation hearing. Trump live updates.
Yeah.
So we've already written out the headline, so doesn't matter what happens at this event. That's what she's reporting.
Probably took her an hour to come up with that headline, John. So
That's a good headline.
sometimes people need a little time.
It's a good headline. I mean, I was impressed.
Yeah. I did watch a quick segment. He was asked about I don't know what the question was, but he's answering. He's saying, look, I wrote a book. Yes, that's true. And I started off with, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, and I ended with, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. And then, of course, he said a lot of things in the middle. And then I found this post, and I wish I had kept the name of the person I found it, who I stole it from. I'll do better in the future. I promise, universe. Don't criticize or judge. But this is fascinating, John. So 1986, you've got 5 vaccines from in utero to 12 months. And then this is what babies are given today. Now, I know there are people that are much closer to the immunization, whatever you call it, series that babies are expected to take today. But it's true. I think of my own kids. You know, my oldest, it was pretty innocuous. But by the time we got to our youngest, which was 14 years later, all of a sudden the series of vaccines grew and grew and grew. And I can only imagine, what it must be like today. So he's not anti-vax, but he is saying that when people outright lie about what the efficacy of the vaccine is, by the way, the definition of vaccine was changed to accommodate mRNA, in case anyone wants to go look that up. Prior to mRNA, the definition was really different on the CDC's website. But he's just questioning it. He's saying, I read the studies, and the studies do not support what you're saying. And I think that's wrong. And I think we need to look into it. And for that, they call him a charlatan, a quack. He's a liar. He's literally saying, I want to protect people by calling out something that I know is wrong. And I'm just asking smart people to look into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got another video I want to show you. David, earlier today, L sent in our group text, he sent over, this is exactly why we need to be praying that RFK gets confirmed. I can't bring that up. Is there any way you could bring that up? I don't know if you can see that or not.
I'm in there. Okay, hold on. Is it after Millie? It is. I have End Wokeness, and then I have Elizabeth Warren.
No, it's before that, I think.
It's before Elizabeth Warren. Okay.
It was at 7:48 a.m. How about that? My time. Anyway, let me play while he's looking for that. Let me play this other video that I have. And once again, RFK Jr. just lays it out.
Are you a conspiracy theorist?
That is a pejorative, Senator, that's applied to me, mainly to keep me from asking difficult questions of powerful interests. I was told that I was a conspiracy theorist. That label was applied to me because I said that the vaccines, the COVID vaccine, didn't prevent transmission and it wouldn't prevent infection, when the government was telling people, Americans, that it would. I was saying that because I was looking at the monkey studies in May of 2020. I was called a conspiracy. Now everybody admits it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said red dye caused cancer. And now FDA has acknowledged that and banned it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said fluoride lowered IQ. Last week, JAMA published a meta-review of 87 studies saying that there's a direct inverse correlation between IQ loss.
All right. So I'm going to assume
I could go on for about a week.
So calling him names, what else is new?
Well, I was going to say the only thing they're good at is name calling. And if that's the way you're going to start a conversation, guess what? probably nothing you say next matters.
Well, you've already
hold on.
lost the conversation at that point.
Yeah, we're done already. That's your strategy is name calling. Hang on a second. I think I have what you're looking for. I just want to put it up. I'm trying to do it in a way.
What a
where
great comment. What a great RFK Jr. is a great opportunity to bring a lot of Americans together. It's why they want to fight him so hard. Could not agree more. They are fighting for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of personal paydays that are going to go away if or when he is confirmed. And by the way, I think he's already got enough votes to confirm.
I hope so. And then Shannon, no, what am I? I'm going to say her name wrong. What's her name? It's his running mate. Why am I getting her name wrong? Maybe it is Shannon. She came out and she did a video saying, if you don't vote for him, we're going to primary you out of office. And it was like a really strong message. I'm not sure that it came across as a sane and sound person. I saw some pretty nasty remarks afterwards, but I think this is what you were looking for, right?
That's it. Look at those numbers.
Yeah. So ADHD, and this is incredible. 800. Okay. So this is disease or disorder increase since 1990, which, it's insane. Now, and some people, well, we have better detection today, so we can discover these things more quickly, like lupus. It's easier for us to discover now that you have lupus. 787% increase in incidence of lupus since 1990.
Bipolar disorder in youth, 10,833% increase. Now, I read a study today, and rather than pull it up on the screen and show it to you, I figured I would just surmise it for you. The study says that all of the psychotropic drugs that they're giving for these bipolar disorders and other depression, all of these mental disorders, none of them fix the problem. And in fact, all of them have horrific side effects. So what they do is they end up creating drugs to counter the horrific side effects.
Yeah, that's what you do. Remember, was it called not speed cancer? What was it called? Rapid something cancer? Turbo cancer. Yes. So now we have a rise of turbo cancers. And was it Pfizer or Moderna that went and bought a company that is on their way to developing the right medicine to treat turbo cancers? Can't make this stuff up.
Hang on, I got another one for you. This will piss everyone off too, if you guys are ready. Anyway, we wanted you to see this chart because that is one of the reasons that he is so anti, and he's not anti-vax. Actually, there are some vaccines that he acknowledges are helpful. And I think that Mrs. John, who is a medical professional, she would agree that there are some vaccines that are very helpful and need to be in the vaccine repertoire or schedule. The bottom line is, where you showed, there are so many now that we never had before. It's just kind of out of control. And I'm going to go ahead and toss this one up. Hey, Alice, glad you joined us. Thanks for being here. Let's just take a listen to that. You guys are going to love this.
Move on. Did you say Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides?
So again, let's just scream at him. Hang on. No, I got the answer.
I found in my research for my book is Lyme disease wasn't a noticeable problem until the mid 70s. And what my research said is that there are actually 3 really virulent tick-borne diseases that showed up right around Lyme, Connecticut, at the mouth of the Connecticut River, which is right across from Plum Island, which was the U.S.'s anti-animal crop headquarters for the biological weapons program. So late 60s, the peak of the biological weapons program in the U.S., these 3 freaky diseases showed up. So that was Lyme arthritis caused by the spirochete. There was a rickettsia, which is Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and then there was a cattle parasite. It was the second time it was found in man in that area, called babesia. And that's actually, I got Lyme and babesia, which can be fatal, and it's a serious disease.
So all three, so you have a cluster effectively of these three previously rare diseases right across the water from the U.S. government's biological weapons testing facility. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's if you're like working for the CDC and on the lookout for natural versus unnatural disease outbreaks, having 3 new tick-borne diseases show up, extra deadly disease causing than in the past, it would raise it would get their attention, and there would be investigations, which is what happened.
That sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory to me. Just because you have previously rare diseases show up all at once across from a biological weapons facility doesn't mean. So
Tucker, I love it.
Okay, his sarcasm alert is off the charts, David. Right? Hey, David, real quick, I want to put this one back up. Do you remember Hunter?
Yeah, of course.
Bozeman. From Bozeman. Hey, buddy.
Thanks for being here.
So glad we're you reconnected. Good to see you.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is and that's just true. That's what's happening is we keep on bringing back all of these diseases, and they're most likely or most logically origins. It's just that's why this guy is such a national treasure. Because he's bringing
a wet market.
Right. That's why it's a national treasure. And I saw that clip today and I was kind of blown away by it, but it doesn't, I'm blown away because it's out there, not blown away because it happened. I think that the disclosure, this is the disclosure portion of it where it's all coming out. It's all going to come out. All right. So it was a rough day for the Democrats. I think what happened was the Democrats exposed themselves for being the lunatics that they are. Yes, I said that. But I think that they are.
We need a new name for that side. It's because they're not just Democrats. It is the cabal, but they did. I need to get caught up on the rest of it. But the few clips that I did see, just people losing their minds.
They are.
And the harder that they fight to say this person's unqualified or they're a quack or what have you, I think the more that we need to get them in quick, because clearly there's something that they're hoping doesn't get discovered or get outed.
Well, McConnell and Lindsey Graham both came out pretty hardcore against RFK Jr. as well. And again, that is very clear. They're paid for by those folks. Hey, before we move on, I wanted to call attention to our sponsor for tonight's show, Steel Rebel Design. Steel Rebel Design makes all the hats, cups, hoodies, shirts, you name it, they do it. We love them. Couldn't be happier with them. They do amazing work for us, and they are the creators and printers of the original. This is the OG Just Our Take shirt. We also have the fight one that you saw in the opening video tonight, and then we also have a brand new snow camo Make America Great Again hat, both in puff and without the puff. So she called me today and said, John, I want to try something. I want to do the snow camo with gold print.
Oh, that would look so good.
Do it, Kim, do it. So we just, again, we're so happy that Steel Rebel Design is our sponsor. If you go down below into the description, you can find a link to their store and you can get the shirts and hats. And we're going to come up with some hoodies here in a couple weeks that we can put on the site. And you can get the hats there as well. So Steel Rebel Design, if you use the code JustOurTake at checkout, she'll give you 10% off. Thank you guys very much at Steel Rebel Design. We love you. So, did you hear that there was an incident at the DOJ the other day?
Okay, so I heard, but I couldn't actually confirm like what was it, but they were evacuated, right?
They were evacuated. They said that there was some form of a threat. Let's just pull this one up. So an emergency evacuation order was made. Employees leave the DOJ building today in Washington, D.C. due to a threat, quote. Law enforcement officers, specialized response units, and emergency crews were on the scene. Authorities have yet to comment and find that very peculiar. Authorities? Which authorities would those be? I don't think it's far-fetched that the DOJ may have had a surprise raid, is this person's response. And That's how it would be done if you were going to do some sort of a raid. You have to evacuate them and get them out of there, and then while they're out, you do your quick search. No specifics on what the potential problem was. You just go out there and you say there was a potential problem. There was an emergency we had to get out there for. So here's some more on it.
What kind of shoes are those? Oh, just kidding.
Justice Department building reportedly evacuated due to unknown threat. Emergency crews, including law enforcement, on scene. Potentially disturbing news has unfolded. Yada, yada, yada. Let's see it on X.
We've been evacuated out of the Department of Justice building. You can see the people standing on the corners. People over there standing, and people across the street. These are all DOJ employees. What's going on? This happened just right as the afternoon was starting. More details later.
John,
that's riveting on scene.
That's the storm. You know what? To your point, that's the storm. To your point, if you're going to raid someone, if you tell, hey, we're going to come on over, we want to go through some stuff, everything gets in the shredder, right? It's all gone. You show up and like, hey, there's some kind of an emergency in the building. Well, people will be like, oh my God, we should leave. But they're not going to think, and I should destroy everything that I don't want someone to look at. They're just going to get up and go outside and go across the street, grab a coffee or something, wait for the fire alarm to turn off. But it's brilliant. And I don't know what they were looking for, whoever they are. But I hope they are the white hats, and I hope they found whatever they were looking for, and let's go.
Well, it's a good place to put a placeholder in for in a little bit after we get through some of the top news and comments here. We're going to talk a little bit about what we think is really going on behind the scenes. I know we're shy. We don't like to give our opinions here, but we're going to bring out what we think is really going on behind the scenes and all of that. So I want to talk a little bit about the border. Everybody's been watching. There's a lot going on down there. The Marines are there. We've got Marines. We've got National Guard. We also have Army going down there, which is really interesting. I didn't think that the Army could do ops in the U.S., but apparently something happened yesterday or the day before that triggered the ability for the Army to mass on the border, and that was shots were fired across the border from cartel members at CBP. That immediately changed the whole temperature of what's going on down there. You had pointed out accurately that on Sunday when we were playing the video of the Marines showing up down there, they have real guns, they have real magazines in the guns, and they have bullets in those magazines. They're not playing. So I saw a live stream the other day. There was a gentleman, Anthony Arguello, I think is his name. He's a live streamer. He's been covering the border for years now. We've shown him on the stream in our early days when they were trying to close up Texas, the Texas border down there at was it Eagle Pass? Yeah. He's one of the guys that does a lot of the live streaming down there. But anyway, he was down there and he's just doing basic reporting. And all of a sudden, cartel members started throwing rocks at him, CBP, and the Marines. And because it was rocks, they just backed up. I mean, they could have just smoked them all, but they didn't. They just backed up. And but again, they're escalating.
Well, and I was going to say, we have seen more and more the use of drones to carry weapons, right? In fact, I don't know if these are true or not. I'm going to assume they're true because it feels like the technology is far enough along where it can happen. We saw some being used in Ukraine, where there's a drone outfitted with it's an explosive device, right? So it gets right up next to the target, and so the cartels have what might feel like an unlimited supply of money, and they have access to whatever they need, it seems. So we have to. These folks on the border have to be careful. They're not just a bunch of people. I was about to say something not great. They're not just a bunch of people hiding behind a few cactuses, shooting 22s across, the river. These are people that have access to sophisticated weapons, and they might feel emboldened because they're on the Mexican border. And what are we going to do about it anyways?
Well, to that point, David, if you look at the resistance that they've received from the Mexican army, They shoot a few of them, hang them from bridges, and then they, the Mexican army acquiesces, or they pay them off.
Right.
They're not used to having, and by the way, what have we done? What have we done for the last
nothing.
25, 30 years? Nothing.
Right.
So, there's a new sheriff in town, and I think the new sheriff is going to issue a weapons free and hot. And we'll see what happens. But so Hunter, what I did hear was that there was a shootout, so there was returned fire. I've seen conflicting reports. I can't confirm, but one of the reports said that the cartel member was shot and killed. Again, can't confirm that, so please take it for what it's worth. But yeah, there were a volley of fire of gunfire back and forth, and that does change the entire complexity of this. Anyway, I want to show you something that has been coming up, and these people have been trying to get this message out and trying to get this message out. Finally, people are starting to listen. There's a place called, oh my gosh, Colony Ridge in Texas. Got a video that shows a little bit about it. But in Colony Ridge, there's a developer down there that has taken 60 square miles and developed this area, and there are housing over 50,000 illegals there. So the cartels have come in and bought up a lot of it as a place to keep, to transition these people. It's kind of unheard of is probably a understatement, but 60 square miles. So I'm going to bring up a video that I have of that as well.
And say again where this is. This is in Texas.
Texas. They show it to you on the map here, I believe, in
Incredible.
this. So let me.
Soon it will have a new name.
Explain to Ridge. I think this is important. Explain to the listeners what Colony Ridge is and why you were so concerned about it.
It's a 60 square mile city of illegal aliens in the middle of Texas, Old East Texas, about 40 miles northeast of Houston. That is absolutely vast. I've been up there over in a helicopter and in a plane, and I've flown my drone. I mean, it's to the horizon. You can't even see the end of this thing, how vast it is, of just kind of dilapidated trailers. And the developer's been selling land marketed to illegal aliens. And when you have, 5 or 6 million people pouring over the border, and at this rate, we're probably going to have at least another couple million in 2024, they have to live somewhere.
Ridge. I think this is important. Explain to.
So, yeah, that's quite a huge area. And again, the fact that it's 60 square miles, Marie, 60 square miles that area is.
I hadn't heard of it, so I just wanted to take a quick peek. This is really easy for anyone to find, but this just some video of what you were talking about.
Is there sound with that or no?
No sound, but there's lots of video. I was like that. I'm tongue tied. That's fascinating. What are they going to do about it? And then it was just criticism. It's saying it's hard to believe that Abbott is, really taking a strong stand when you've got this massive little city happening right in his backyard.
Yeah, this isn't new. This has been going on for a while. And then you got Dan Crenshaw down there too. And Dan Crenshaw apparently has a new seat in some capacity where he should be working to clear that up. But yeah, when you see everything that happened with Governor Abbott down there, and the vast numbers of people, 4,000 a day were coming through Eagle Pass alone. And then he finally, when all the news got up there and all the streamers and everybody, then he finally closed it down. He brought in his National Guard. It's almost like he's not really serious about stopping the border crisis down there. Oh, that's a much better video. Thank you.
Mute that if you like, but yeah, incredible. So I look, Abbott, I always feel like he's the guy who comes in afterwards, right?
Yep.
DeSantis takes a stand. Abbott waits to see what happens. And then Abbott says, well, DeSantis didn't get fired. I'll take the same stand. And he did that over and over and over again throughout the pandemic. He did it in the early stages of some of the illegal immigrants. And so, yeah, you're right. I don't know what, he just doesn't seem to have the same kind of leadership. Chutzpah is the word that comes to mind. Like he just doesn't have it.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this has been going on for a while. This isn't brand new. So they had to have known that it was there, and they've allowed it to go on because it's been quiet, it's been out of the way, and what's in it for them? Why wouldn't you be the hero and get rid of it?
Right.
So,
Especially since it's putting a lot of pressure on the towns and cities and the people, and it's a ton of pressure on your local communities. Be a hero. But
so these people are the locals down there are now getting very vocal about it and begging Tom Homan to bring his people down there. Just like I don't have video because I just didn't bring a video of it. All of the people, the illegals that are flooding the streets. We did show one on Sunday. All the illegals that are flooding the streets and daring Homan to show up. It's almost comical, but I think that Homan is going to start showing up. And speaking of heroes,
signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000 person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And that's a tough place to get out of. Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all. And it was just it's just an unforced error that we even have to be doing this. Now we need Congress to provide full funding for the complete and total restoration of our sovereign borders, as well as financial support to remove record numbers of illegal aliens.
How about that?
I was, as I'm listening to his words, I was thinking about one reporter on CNN MSNBC, sorry. And it wasn't Rachel, it was somebody else, criticizing, his monotone. There he goes in his monotone voice again. I'm like, you know what? Probably because he's been up for 23 hours working, but listen to the words, because those words are what matter. And by the way, promises made, promises kept. What he said, you should pay attention, because that's what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I mean, he's laying it out there. There's no hidden agenda. He's telling you flat out what he's going to do. That's right. And he's doing it. So yeah, 100%.
I was looking for I can't find it, but I saw this clip earlier today. It's an interview. I believe it's CNN, and I will find it because it's actually a good one. And maybe some of you have already seen it, but basically the person's being interviewed, and it's all about, don't you feel bad about the people? We're deporting the people. We need them to do the agricultural work, and this is really going to drive up the costs of food and housing and all these things. And the answer was, I'm sure that you were not insinuating that we exploit them for labor. I'm sure that's not what you meant by your question, but let me answer the impact on the economy.
Yeah.
He asked again, and he gave the same response. I thought, put them in their place. What you want is what? Slave labor. And he's right. You want to exploit people for cheap labor. That's your goal. That's a terrible argument.
I've seen all of these people. They keep on talking about who's going to pick your blueberries, who's going to pick your lettuce, and again, something that we've talked about here on the Just Our Take show. There is a program for that. It is a migrant worker visa. It's been in place, and President Trump, I think even the new press secretary was talking about that today. And there is a migrant worker visa that the president fully supports.
Yeah.
There is no reason for you to use these scare tactics that you're not going to get blueberries.
Exactly. I saw that interview too. I can't wait for the suburban moms to realize they can't get their blueberries anymore because they don't have any immigrants here to pick them. I'm like,
and this is where people start throwing things at me.
Bigoted and racist thing I've ever heard.
Sorry, I'm taking Dora out.
Goodbye, Dora.
Goodbye, Dora.
Terrible.
Sorry, that was bad. Even
that was
for me.
really bad, John, but I appreciate it. It was my kind of humor.
That's right. So Will had a comment. Thanks, Hunter. I appreciate that. Will had a comment. You know what I don't understand is they would shoot us if we went to another country, but we let them in and send them to an island just like in the movies. Here's the thing. That's not an island you want to be on. It isn't. Now, the part that bothers me is we're going to have to pay for them. And that's going to cost money unless we move all of our license plate printing over to GITMO, or find a way for them to earn a living. I don't know, but it's not okay.
Not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
Well, yeah. I mean, how long do you keep them there? Remember how we still have people there from 9/11, and that was 01. Yeah, migrant worker visa program has been around for 50 years. Exactly. It's not new. And there are a lot of people. I remember interviews with people from California where they were interviewing these migrant workers. They're like, no, I don't want to live here. I have a family. I have a home. I have everything I want down there, but I come up here during the season. I make enough money to sustain myself for the rest of the year.
Yeah, up in Oxnard, I just remember driving through the fields and just seeing fields and fields of people. And at first I thought, oh, it's a sad situation. And then I learned very quickly, no, this is what the people that are in that field actually consider that to be an opportunity, because the pay is way better than anything they would receive from south of the border. And at that time, literally nobody else would want to do that job. And these people were saying, please let me do that job. Now you could argue, you can make a lot of arguments about, oh, somebody's not willing to do that job, but put that aside for a minute. There are people that have said, I will come up there and do that labor and get paid in the US dollar at a rate much greater than anything I can make in my town, my community. But to your point, I want to go home and be with my family and be in my community. Thank you for that opportunity, but this is home.
Yeah. So, did you guys happen to, President Trump. I always find it so disrespectful when people just call him Trump. He is the president of the United States of America. So President Trump fired 17 inspector generals of these different departments. And he just said, the reason for doing it, first of all, they do serve at the pleasure of the president. But the reason that he fired them is because these people have been languishing in their position for years. They slow walk investigations. They don't go after aggressively the things that are going wrong in each of those areas. And so he said, you guys are all fired. You got to find a new place to do your thing. So here is just in, USD inspector was just physically removed from her office. There you go. Thank you. She was just physically removed from her office. Hold on, the wrong one. After refusing to comply with Trump's firing, per Reuters. Trump given his orders. They are not negotiable. You're fired. Get out.
We do actually have footage of the.
Oh, please. Let's see it.
So I will show that. It's rough, but she had to go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean,
it was bad.
No, she actually came out over the weekend and said, I'm not going. Yeah. They're going to have to take me out physically. Well, okay. If that's what you really want, we can do that, but it doesn't have to be that way.
You serve at the pleasure of the president, and you have not done a good job. You have, and to your point, you've been inefficient. You've been slow walking work. You haven't addressed the work that's important. You have to go. And just like we need term limits for, Congress people, term limits for senators, term limit. We have term limits for presidents. We even have term limits for governors, although I think that's, in my state, one term too long. Why are these people able to be in these roles for decades and they're not good at it? At least they're not good for us. They may be good at the job they're being asked to do. They're not good at the job when they serve the American people.
Agreed. So President Trump rescinded, you got to be careful when you listen to this. He rescinded his OMB memo on federal spending freeze. So he put out a freeze, a federal spending freeze. It said grants, loans, things like that. All of those are being they're on suspension right now. We're going to hold for 90 days. Immediately after that comment, the OMB, Office of Management and Budget, I think that's what it is, came out and they wrote a memo. Well, Trump didn't need a memo. He said, I don't need a memo. I need my words. My words are good enough. And so he rescinded the memo. So this is not a rescission of the federal funding freeze. It's simply a rescission of the OMB memo. Why? To end any confusion created by the court's injunction. The president's executive order on federal funding remain in full force and effect and will be rigorously implemented. It's easy for me to say. I think that's really interesting. He's putting a hold on this. It's not unusual. People are saying this is unprecedented. No, many presidents come in and they put a hold on what's going out because they want to know what has the previous administration been spending money on. And what do we find out? They spent $50 million to send condoms to Gaza. So at first you think, well, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, thank you for bringing this up. What are they doing with those condoms? They're filling them with helium, attaching bombs to them and floating them over Israel.
That's called health care. It's reproductive health care is what that is. By the way, I don't want to send condoms anywhere in the world. Now, if a private community wants to raise funds, buy condoms and send them to a community somewhere else in the world, and you believe in that, like that's close to your heart, you should donate to that organization and they should fulfill your dream. But I personally am not interested in the taxes that I pay being spent this way. And that's before I learned that they were being used by Hamas as a weapon to aid this weapon delivery. Before that, it's nuts. And some of the other, I don't know if you have a list, John. I've heard there's a few other just outrageous ways that this money was being spent.
Well, here's what I'm finding. And I think that Trump and his team knew what was going on, but what better way to bring attention to it than cause an uproar? Right? He does that a lot. You guys have got to understand who Donald Trump is.
Yeah.
He puts this thing out there. All these people scream and dance. And I think that, are you ready for this? Did you hear who put an injunction on him trying to freeze or trying to put a freeze on the spending?
I did not. Who's
Leticia James. Leticia James came out and put a injunction, filed an injunction against him putting this freeze out there. But nevertheless, interestingly enough, here's what happened. He's finding through just a small handful of these spendings that there's money going out there to into, I think it was $12 million to talk about reproduction of squirrels in the Pacific Northwest. Long story short, these are a whole bunch of these junk grants out there. What's happening is 80% of that money is getting funneled back to the DNC. 80% of that money is getting funneled back to those senators and congressmen. I'm not just going to say it's only the Democrats, because it's not.
Oh, it's not.
Because it takes both sides to vote these things in. But the fact is, it's a money laundering scheme. He knew it, and he's exposing it.
And it's a way to say thank you to your friends who are helping to lobby for you to stay in office, helping for you to get the votes you need to stay in office, right? It's like a book deal, right? This is how you say thank you. But there's no way you need millions of dollars to go study squirrel reproduction. And once again, if that's a passionate cause you have, go start a GoFundMe. Don't take my tax dollars for it. Not interested. I don't care.
But again, this is an awareness campaign. Trump puts this great big thing out there so that people take a look and they start digging in and they find the outrageous headlines, and then they get mad at him and they try to. All this dancing is only calling more attention to the fact that they are stealing from we the people.
That's right.
It all comes back to we the people. Follow that, folks. It all comes back to we the people. When he says that he's taking power back from DC and giving it to you, the people, he means it in every which way. I think now would be a good time to talk about the number so far. In the chat, go ahead and throw a number up there. If you've heard it in the news, it's fine. You can throw it up there. The number of executive orders as of today that he's signed so far. Let's just see we'll give it a couple seconds, because sometimes it takes a couple seconds for them to type them in. But how many executive orders do you think that he has put out there so far?
I'm going to be disappointed if Marie doesn't get this right.
I know. Producer Marie. Get that
Producer
right.
Marie, sorry.
Producer Marie. Any guesses? We know that he had like 58 on night one. And I think Roger was closest to that guess. But it takes a little while for them to. There's a delay. There's a 7-second delay in case I say something stupid. Well, I should better have a longer delay than that. Okay. D. Namarro says 155. Marie says 261.
Marie.
A little breathing room without hitting the debt ceiling.
Producer Marie, I'm a little disappointed right now.
We'll wait for a couple more to come in. Just give a wag, as we used to say in the military, a wag.
Yeah.
What about the Fauci Monkey Island? I know, right? No question.
I know we already talked about this, but still, I have that warm glow when they said, Fauci, you lose your security detail. I was like, yes, that's millions of dollars that we can repurpose to something more useful.
I'm going to toss it out there. 350 so far. 350 executive orders so far.
Yeah.
And that was, Roger. See, he's right again. Look at this guy. He's on it. They're still coming. By the way, they're not done. So I have a thought on this. I know it surprises you that I have a thought about this, but I have a thought on this. One, I think he's doing it because he wants to get things done. He needs to get things done. He needs it, and they need to happen fast. Yep, Hunter and Roger were both closest.
They're close.
350. So here's my take on it. Again, he's always doing these exposure campaigns. Do you remember when he was withholding his taxes?
Yeah.
He wasn't going to let anybody see his taxes.
Yeah.
No,
And
you
it's
don't have. And then he made up some BS excuse. You can't see it till I'm under audit. You can't see it till after they're done. I mean,
this is not true. Trump.
And he just kept pushing back and pushing back and pushing back. And what happened? Well, they took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, yeah, we can see your taxes.
Right.
So now there's a precedent all the way up to the Supreme Court. They saw his taxes and they found nothing. He knew that there was nothing.
Right.
He knew that there was nothing there, but he wanted it to get to the Supreme Court so that he would have precedent. So now he or other administrations can go after taxes. So in this case, what happened when Joe Biden came into office? On night one, he signed 42 executive orders overturning pretty much all the big stuff that Trump had done. And Trump's first action was to overturn 78 of Biden's executive orders. So it's just this tit for tat going back and forth. Now Donald Trump is going out of the box, 350 so far. It's only day 9, right? Is it 9 already? I don't know. So 350. And I think he's trying to draw attention to the fact that that's not the way our government's supposed to be run. We have a legislative branch. We have an executive branch. The legislative branch is supposed to make the laws. The executive signs the laws. The legal branch says, yeah, that's good. No, it's not. It's not supposed to be that. We don't have a king. We don't have a dictator. And by the way, we are not under the Constitution. The Constitution is under us. We, the people, are the supreme in this country. It's supposed to be. We've given that up. We've ceded that to these lawmakers. But they want you to believe that. They want you to believe that they're in charge and that we are under them. The fact is, I think Donald Trump is doing this to get some form of legislation in place. So just like he did with, by the way, the other exposure campaign was that the vice president had the overall final say and could certify or not certify an election.
That's right.
They could choose unilaterally to not certify an election. That got changed because Donald Trump exposed it, acting as if, oh, Pence didn't do his job. He should have done his job.
Right.
No,
Pence
he knew.
didn't do his job. He let me down. He let America down. How can they? I can't believe he didn't do this. And then Congress immediately, we better make sure that in the future they can't do that. Thank you. And then, of course, that would have prevented Camilla from taking that action if that action were available to her.
So I would just say that my gut tells me the reason this is happening is because, and you're going to see more. One, it gets the job done. It gets it done quickly, which he needs it to happen quickly. But I also think that it is an exposure campaign that will eventually result in these things going away.
Yeah.
Or at least this much power.
No, I like it. I think when you first mentioned it to me, I thought, oh, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. First off, he did have to unwind a lot of really bad decisions, and he had to get us on the right path. And so, for that standpoint, I'm grateful that this tool is available. But also, the president is not meant to be a dictator or a sole decision maker. It's three branches of government for a reason. There should be checks and balances. And when the president wields that much power, we no longer have a balance. And I think your point is it's out of balance, and he's showing it right in terms of the velocity of his actions right now.
Look, we're happy about it now because it's working in our favor. It could have just as easily been Kamala Harris writing 350 executive orders. And none of us should be okay with that. I'm really not okay with Donald Trump. I know she'd have to get a box.
I was just thinking about the kinds of things that she would be writing orders on. Sorry. Kamala Harris, what else should I do? What else should I mandate?
So, but the fact is, I am apprehensive about him doing this many executive orders. But I was thinking today, and I think it's an exposure tour. So, speaking of exposure tours, well, I'm not going to show you him exposing anything, but yeah, that's my nightmare too. Oh gosh, I want to show you something. Donald Trump still knows how to have fun. I know, hard to believe. In the midst of everything, Donald Trump's out there having fun. Oh, got to go there.
Always where the cameras are when it involves making money. And today at Lowe's Island in Sterling, Virginia, he opened the Tennis Performance Center. Trump volleyed with Serena Williams, shoes off, coat on. Donald Trump showing he's got some game.
What?
Some, little. It's right there at the Trump National Club. Both are tremendous facilities. It was good to see him out there, and the fans seemed to enjoy
Look at
it.
that shot. Boom. Oh, man, they didn't show it. He got it right just in. Even Serena was going, wow.
82. 80. Well, no, how old is this guy now? 79. That was
78,
Biden.
right?
78, 79. Yeah. Well, Biden's falling off a bike. Look at this guy.
A little high, but still, returned it.
No, I'm impressed. Honestly, I'm impressed. I did not see this before.
That's pretty fun. Anyway, I thought it was pretty cool that he got out there and did that.
It's interesting. If you hear some of the reporters talking about just Trump this and Trump that, he has been everywhere. This guy's all over the place. Every time you look up, and he's and it's every time zone, by the way. It just makes you wonder, how on earth is this guy, like, when does he sleep? But he is just literally everywhere, flying into LA and having his meeting there, then up to Vegas, right? And then, of course, I don't know where that took place, but it's just incredible. Yeah, and he's under a rug somewhere. You're absolutely right about that. Probably
Speaking of Vegas, David, thank you for tossing that one out there. He did have an interesting conversation in Vegas the other night. And, Donald Trump, he tosses little headlines out there. I did cut this up quite a bit. On YouTube, you can find his rally in Las Vegas and see the whole thing. It's awesome. I have to say that a good portion of this was stand-up comedy, mixed in with some good news stuff. But I cut out a lot of the comedy just so you guys could get the crux of what we're going to talk about next.
The woke crap. What a lot of stuff. What a lot of crap that was. It was, and these people were petrified of it. I'll tell you, these companies, they run these big companies, they were petrified of it. It was like, I don't think they believed it. I'm sure they didn't believe it. Some I know didn't believe it, but they were so afraid. Near the top of the agenda for our historic Republican majorities in Congress is to pass a massive tax cut for American workers and families. Last year, we campaigned across the country in a pledge that I'm sure most of you didn't hear too much about. Pledge to take the Trump tax cuts and make them permanent, and that's exactly what we're doing. In the coming weeks, I'll be working with Congress to get a bill on my desk that cuts taxes for workers, families, small businesses, and very importantly, keeps my promise for a thing called, and I know you didn't hear anything about this, and I'm sure it had no influence on the state, the fact that we won this crazy, massive majority, a state that hadn't been won by a Republican in decades. But I'm sure you haven't heard, but we're going to get it for you. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. So if you're a restaurant worker, a server, a valet, a bellhop, a bartender, or one of my caddies, I go through caddies like candy. If I play badly, I always blame my caddy. Or any other worker who relies on tipped income, your tips will be 100% yours. Won't that be nice? We will have a quarter. Think of it. A quarter of the typical restaurant worker's pay comes from tips. I didn't know that much. That's a lot. You haven't been reporting them for the last 10 years. So here's our deal. We're going to have no tax on tips from now on, but we're going to go after you viciously for all the money you didn't report for the last 10, 15. We're going to go after you for all the money you didn't report for. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. I have to say, on day one, I immediately halted the hiring of any new IRS agents. You know, they hired or tried to hire 88,000 new workers to go after you, and we're in the process of developing a plan to either terminate all of them or maybe we'll move them to the border.
I agree.
I think we're going to move them to the border. Well, they're allowed to carry guns. You know, they're so strong on guns. But these people are allowed to carry guns, so we'll probably move them to the border. Yeah. She said no tax on any. How about just no tax? You could do that. You know, if the tariffs work out like I think, a thing like that could happen if you want to know the truth. You know, years ago, 1870 to 1913, we didn't have an income tax. What we had is tariffs, where foreign countries came in and they stole our jobs, they stole our companies, they stole our product, they ripped us off. And, you know, they used to do numbers, and then we went to a tariff system, and the tariff system made so much money. It was when we were the richest, from 1870 to 1913. Then we brilliantly came in with an income tax. No, we don't want others to pay. Let's have our people pay. And then you had the Depression in 1928, 1929. I call it 1929. That was a bad time, but, you know, you didn't have tariffs, and you had tariffs that ended in 1913. But it was the richest our country ever was. I
want to point something out real quick, David. He and we've talked about this before. He likes to talk about 1929. Listen to what he does.
Brilliantly came in with an income tax. No, we don't want others to pay. Let's have our people pay. And then you had the Depression in 1928, 1929. I call it 1929.
We had a depression in 1929. I call it 1929. He's calling special attention to 1929. You and I talked about this before. We talked about it as recently as Sunday, that we both believe that there's going to be a correction. That correction could be painful for a lot of people. He keeps talking about 1929, the Great Depression. In order to get off the Fed and off our current monetary system, there's going to have to be something drastic. I see you have something queued up. You can go ahead and toss that up because it kind of relates.
Yeah, I think this is great. If you don't go to our national debt clock, you should. I mean, I think it's up here in the upper left. U.S. national debt, 36.4 trillion. By the way, this has been running a tad slower lately. It's still incredible how fast our U.S. debt grows. I also love the Doge clock here, how much we're saving. So 35 billion, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 35
in 9 days. In 9 days, that's not bad.
It's $35 billion in 9 days. I am confident we could put that money to better work. And then the Great Reset. Yeah, I think so. And we do, like, in the middle here. What I love about the thing in the middle here is, you know, there's $36 trillion of debt and a big zero there. Now, the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. And around the world, most major countries own a lot of US debt. So the idea of defaulting on that debt is inconceivable because It's just inconceivable. It's the U.S. saying, sorry, we can't pay you, and we're canceling all that debt. We're never going to pay you. We're going to move on. I can't see that happening. However, crazier things have happened. So I guess it is possible. I can see an aggressive, accelerated path to reducing our spending and start to aggressively get after this debt. I could see that happening. But anyways, I do see a big zero in this little window here, John. So I could be wrong.
There are many people who believe that all of that money that we quote borrowed from China was nothing but paper, and that they didn't have the money to loan us. And so, are you really defaulting on a debt, or are you erasing a piece of paper that they sent us that was worth nothing? Again, I know that I get it. I'm not trying to minimize it. That's why I think he keeps talking about 1929. That's not the first time. And again, he emphasized it tonight or the other night when he said it. I call it 1929. I think he's messaging.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was January 3rd. I was looking for the date, but HR 25 was submitted for consideration. And I will just quote, what is HR 25 to the 119th Congress, first session? To promote freedom, fairness, and economic opportunity by repealing the income tax and other taxes, abolishing the Internal Revenue Service, and enacting a national sales tax to be administered primarily by the states. I love it. I don't think it has a chance, but I love it. Bring it on.
I love it. It's not going to happen, but it's still cool.
It's still super cool.
Sorry. A couple of interesting things happened. Our guy is not messing around. I'm talking about Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, I'm being nice because he's a military guy. I'm a military guy. I was going to say something about kicking somebody where it would really hurt, but Pete Hegseth stripped General Milley of his security clearance and his security detail. And then they went upstairs in the Pentagon and took another portrait of General Milley off the wall and said, don't ever bring that back in here. They're also going to move forward with possibly a courts martial, but certainly an inquiry. He made a comment and then he reiterated that comment on television. Apparently he went to his Chinese counterpart and said, we are not going to be attacking you. We're not going to launch nuclear weapons at you, but there's a possibility if that ever happens, I will call you in advance.
Yeah, just in case. If my crazy president decides to push the button, I'll give you a call and let you know so that you can prepare and, do whatever you think is necessary. Counterattack, take cover, whatever you feel is necessary. That's treason. Am I wrong? It feels like it's treason.
It certainly isn't good.
Look, and by the way, I'm grateful that as aggressive as Trump is at times, that war is the last thing on his mind. We saw that in his first 4 years, right? No conflicts. We're seeing it now where he's saying end the conflict. He's not saying who's going to win the war. He's saying end the conflict. I don't see him doing that. But the fact that you're going to come out and say that, like that's your rhetoric, you can't be trusted.
Sorry, Mrs. John just sent me an emergency note, so I'm getting back to her really quick.
I just want to say Hunter agrees with me. So there.
At least someone does. That's good.
Roger does too. Good. I got 2 in my court.
I'm with you. No, I'm totally. Listen, I would be lying.
Never trust him. Yeah.
I would be lying to you if I didn't say that I was going like this as soon as I heard that he had done that. Right out of the box. I'm not going to mess with you. You're done. And this goes back to people saying that he wasn't, you're not strong enough. You don't have the will. You're not good enough. You're not going to meet up no, sorry. This is the guy. He's the guy. And by the way, he set a tone right out of the gate. I'm going after Milley.
Yeah. And he did. And I took your portrait down too. All right, Mr. John, what else do you got?
I wanted to talk about the Millie thing, but I didn't have a video on it because he had actually made some comments afterwards. So, David, you hit the HR thing. I hit the Millie thing, even though it was brief. We've got more to come on this no tax thing. I believe that they're not going to stop at just no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. I don't think that they're going to stop at that. But that does start some massive momentum, doesn't it?
It does. Also, Hunter noted that tax on overtime too. I think that was one of the things that was included. But I love that. Right. First off, he made the joke, but it's probably true. If it's a cash tip, although I can't remember the last time that I went out to eat and paid cash. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but it's rare, right? I think it's rare for most people nowadays. But if you're paid your tips in cash, which I guess that's what they do. They'll tip out, right? So they record the tips on a credit card, but when they tip out in cash.
Right.
Everyone gets their tips. Are they recording it all on their income tax? Probably not. Anyway, so why not? Why just reduce the complexity of the tax return and let them have it?
Now, Hunter, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that they assume a certain tax amount. So if you sold this dollar amount and they know that by credit card receipts, then they assume a certain amount. It's probably 4 or 5%. You pay taxes on that 4 or 5%, regardless of whether or not you were tipped at all.
Right. And I think that's the travesty of it, because you might not have earned that much in tips, but now you owe the taxes as though you did. And that's just confusing, and it's not really a fair way to get after it. So if you don't have a really sound way to get after it, then err on the side of the person is bussing the tables. So I love that.
So going back to that, I think that there's also the possibility that they're going to go beyond that. There's a couple key phrases in that. If you go back and take a look at his video from Vegas, because again, I cut some things out of there. She said no tax on anything, and he goes, yeah, we could do that. He said it kind of under his breath. He kind of said we could do that. And then he also came back, and this is the first time I heard him say no taxes at all was during the campaign. I believe it was probably September. He was in the barbershop in Harlem, and he was talking about no tax on tips, and he talked about no tax on Social Security. And one of the guys in the barbershop said, why don't we get rid of all the taxes? And it wasn't I'm going to tell you, it was set up because Donald Trump had an answer, and he had facts and figures there with him. The same thing that he just talked about the Blue Ribbon Commission and how we never used to have to pay sales tax or income tax. And the dates, by the way, don't forget the Fed started and right after the Fed started on April 15th, the anniversary of the downing of the wonderful ship, the Titanic. All of those folks, by the way, Morley, only one was not on the ship. He invited all of his banker buddies, but then at the last minute he canceled. They all died. They went down with the ship. He did not. Anyway, right after that, on the anniversary of the downing of the Titanic, is the day that we pay our taxes. That's April 15th. So Donald Trump knew all that stuff. He said all that stuff. That first time I heard him talk about no taxes, I believe this is part of his mission. I think he wants to try to make it happen. He keeps on going back to it. And I think that lady who yelled it out probably was a plant as well. For all we know, it could have been, what's her name? Levitt, his press secretary.
So one other comment on this taxes piece. By the way, really quick, Hunter saying when he worked for tips, his employer recorded what he got for tips every day. Not sure what the government assumed or not, that would check out through with how the government acts generally. So the employer recorded everything. So that might have been part of it. I have not worked in that line of work. So I have no practical experience other than other people have told me that they're paying taxes on tips that they never actually collected because it was based on the amount of money. But hey, one other thing, this, for me, this is alarming. We collect about $4.7 trillion in taxes, but we're going to spend in that U.S. debt clock. We're going to spend already. It's already this fiscal year. We're going to spend over $7 trillion. Now, if you decided, John, that I'll make some numbers up. I make $100,000 a year, but you know what? I'm going to spend about $400,000 a year. How long can you do that before you have to sleep outside on the cold under some cardboard? You just
if you had a printing press,
you just can't do that. So the first things first is bring your spending under control. And I know it's going to be painful because some of the things that the government pays for, which they don't pay for, they get money only from, really from your taxes. That's where they get, and that's where they get money. They don't, and they borrow it into existence. That's the only two ways they can get money. So if you live within your means, and then you find another way to generate those means, and that could be tariffs, that could be sales tax on, it could be sales tax, right? Which is fair. That makes it equitable, right? For somebody who wants to spend $50 million, will pay sales tax on that versus somebody who's going to spend $100,000. The taxes will be fair. But live within your means, and then find maybe some other means so that you can reduce the requirement for you to pay those taxes. We have to do that.
I'm going to give you guys a quick update on the newest reporting from DC. A civilian aircraft carrying approximately 60 passengers, that's a big civilian aircraft, collided with a military helicopter near Washington, D.C. Reagan National Airport. As Patty McMurray reported moments ago, there was a massive crash this evening in D.C. after a helicopter collided with a passenger jet leaving Reagan International Airport. Numerous casualties are being reported. People in the area heard a loud boom. All flights out of Reagan have been canceled. So there you have it. It's heartbreaking. We know a little bit more now. It was a civilian aircraft carrying 60 people. They do know of casualties already. I can't imagine. I mean, it depends on how far up in the air, I guess they were. I don't know.
They weren't that far up in the air, but still, it's an incredible explosion. And even if you just drop a couple 100 feet into that freezing river, that's not a good situation.
Yep.
Heartbreaking. I've flown into that airport, I'm trying to imagine. I don't want to imagine it. It's horrible.
Yep.
Cash. Will says cash.
Cash. Yeah. Well,
cash is king.
Yep. All right, guys. There's so much more that we could toss out there. The problem is getting everything. Yes, prayers, Pat, prayers for the folks and their families. There's so much to happen every single day, and we don't want to just toss a headline out there. Sometimes we do. We try to get you a little bit of info on those, and then come up with some of our expert analysis.
By expert,
I shouldn't laugh at that. That's.
Anybody
tuning in for the first time now just lost all hope and
no credibility. All right, John, we have a lot in front of us, right? We'll see what happens after RFK's hearing today. When is the confirmation, by the way? When's the confirmation?
I think that'll be next week, but we also have a couple really big ones this week. I think that Cash comes up this week.
That's going to be so good.
I can't wait.
Because he's a threat to democracy also.
The bottom line is Cash is about 14 steps ahead of you. If you think you're going to bully him, he's going to smile at you and say, whenever you want me to answer a question, I'd be glad to answer. If you want to pontificate from your perch, that's fine. You can do that too.
It's going to be so good. Yeah. When is Tulsi's? I don't remember seeing anything on Tulsi, but
I think that's going to be this week too. I think Tulsi, Cash, and RFK. It's a big week for confirmation, so we'll have some stuff for you on Sunday. Should be fun. That debt chart, by the way, is at usdebtclock.org. If you just type in US Debt Clock, I'm sure you can find it.
I think you want one more. Just for fun, one more fun piece of news.
Oh no!
What? No. It's your news. You shared it with me earlier.
Okay.
How much did Trump win in the latest lawsuit that he won?
And who did he win it against? Trump won $25 million in a settlement with Mark Zuckerberg for canceling all of his accounts.
And where is that money going to be?
Well, 22 million of it is going to be used to open the Trump presidential library. So I think he got another 20 million from, was it CBS?
I don't know if it was 20 million, but it's a few $1 million here, a few $1 million there. And the next thing you know, he'll be the first president fully funded library by money won in lawsuits against these pundits, and based on the budget he's going to have to build it, it's going to be pretty amazing. So,
yeah.
Anyways, all
so
right.
we'll leave you with this. Remember, it is your nation. It is we the people. We don't serve them; they serve us. And I think that the Tom Holland clip that we played a while back is probably one of the best and a great reminder. And I think that's what the entire presidency of Donald Trump in his 47th is going to be, is all about remembering and reminding us that they serve us, not the other way around. With that, I look forward to seeing you guys all on Sunday, unless something happens between now and then. Breaking news. That's right. They are our servants, 100%. Wish you all the very best. God bless. Oh, sorry, Pat, you are 100% right. Before we go, Luna, what's her name? This Congresswoman Luna. She actually said today that Donald Trump needs to be put on Rushmore.
Well, Pelosi wanted Biden on Rushmore, so I guess why not?
Why are you laughing? How do you think
I don't know why I'm laughing about.
How do you think those other guys got up there? Oh, David, you just lost half our audience for us. Thank you.
No. Like, I'm good with Trump going on Rushmore. Trump is he's an icon. I'm just saying I'm sorry I laughed. When Pelosi said, "Yeah, I think he could be on Mount Rushmore."
Well, I'll put this out there. I think it's a bit early. I think that Trump is doing great in his first 9 days. Let's see how it ends up.
That's right. We have a long way to go. And I hope I hope we stay at this pace. In 4 years, the country will look completely different. And I imagine we'll be in a much better place.
It's kind of fun. So don't forget, Sunday, we have a show, 7:00 Pacific time. Next Wednesday, we have Mrs. John. Mrs. John is going to come on with us. And she, as a medical professional, is going to be talking to us specifically about birth tourism. If you don't know what it is, you should dig in a little bit before that. You might have some questions for her. She'd be glad to answer them. But she'll be with us, and we'll also have our good buddy Elle, who is a Guatemalan. I almost called him a refugee. That's not what I meant. Immigrant from Guatemala who is a naturalized citizen here. So all that said, we're glad you guys came and spent the time with us. We really appreciate it. We love you all. Let's go out the way we love to go out.
That's right. Have a good night, everybody.
What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
The sweet emotion raining all over me. I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
Making black and blue.